What's up, adventurers, and welcome to another War Within video. This one talking about the race to world first and the news that's recently been surrounding, or the drama that's been surrounding the race to world first. But I think, unfortunately, this is kind of a topic that is recurring in the space, and I think I wanted to make a video that talked to the side of, is the legitimacy of the race to world first threatened? Is this race not as valuable as people are claiming, and what should we do to change these things? So I want to start by saying, to begin, that I'm not here to judge the morality of the situation. I think that even with exploits, these raids are incredibly challenging, and personally I think official guilds should just receive accounts. It shouldn't be based on gear acquisition, and this whole thing of the time things between NA and EU. It's confusing, and the benefits and drawbacks are always like a point of contention. But personally, I want there to be a version of this where maybe it's more of, time to clear versus trying to be first. I think this introduces like sort of a negative culture surrounding it, but I know it's not a single dimensional thing. It's not a topic that's black and white. A lot of it is sort of the nature of the game, in its full live experience as we're seeing it. So I think the game creates this culture. So it's not necessarily, it's more of how the guilds react to the game and its current state versus them creating something and the game reacting to it, in the reverse fashion. So to start, we're going to start with a little bit of a Reddit post from a while back. This was a Liquid member, Zorbrix, who posted to a Discord server talking about punishments that had been handed out. Basically, those who exploited the severed threads. Renown in the Renown system were rolled back, given 4-day bans. Basically, you could use multiple alts to basically pact with the 3 leaders to maximize how much renown gain you're getting. Some were saying that you could get it maxed within 24 hours. I don't know how true that was, but basically exploiting the system to max out your renown. And for those of you who don't know the renown system, it's basically it's ways to get you basically early high item level gear. I think you can upgrade gear as well with crests. So there's a lot of like really good end game stuff in there mixed into that. So why does this happen? Why do these things? I mean, of course, people are going to seek out their own benefit and try to get things easier than intended. But Race to World First is this different, dedicated version of World of Warcraft where players tackle basically the toughest raiding content, and each season will have its own race to world first, and the tactics will change with the game as well. So like these things are constantly evolving, constantly changing. There's teams of people who work specifically on clearing this content, and so exploits are often used by competitive teams to gain a slight edge. A phrase that's used is exploit early and exploit often. That's because a lot of times these exploits tend to be used in the beginning and then caught on by the devs, or they finally realize that they're a problem, and then they get removed, changed, fixed. These are it's kind of like a natural cycle of things. So I think beyond just the heavy like grinding, they have things like, gold buying and buying up the BOE market. So any sort of gear that you could possibly access, so you could stack your team, or maybe your alternative team, or whoever your fill-ins are. You're trying to get as many people as possible who are geared and ready to go. That's been a thing for ages now, but this is something that's kind of like it's cornering certain markets to where only certain groups of people are going to be able to compete into this. So it's already a very condensed population of WoW, a very select few who can participate in this and actually have a chance of winning. But beyond that, using the Renown system on top of that to basically go, let's do this even faster, even though we have way more resources than any one particular like no-name guild, like nobody knows guild could possibly acquire. You don't see like new up and comers like really competing in this. You really just see some of the major hitters who have always been competing in this. And that's probably my only issue with all of this is that when you have exploits like this, you know, they're in the game, so you use them. But ultimately, I think that the Race to World First doesn't offer a lot of opportunities for people outside of these guilds to really even have a chance. And so I think that the system currently is very, it's competitive, of course, but a lot of people just look at it from like a window view of like, it's like being Pee-wee basketball and then looking at the NBA and looking like I have a shot someday, you know, I guess. So why does this matter? I mean, this was hot fixed later on, but why are we still talking about this? I think that it ultimately doesn't address the underlying culture of it all. I think guilds like this may face temporary setbacks and rollbacks, but they often have more members, accounts, resources to recover quickly. I doubt this affected them largely. You know, maybe this was more of a post in the Discord to be like, hey guys, don't do this further beyond this, to report to some of the people, you know. But it also asked, I mean, this begs the question, how many people got away with it? You know, how many people didn't get caught by this? Or two, how many are using exploits that are unknown? You know, I mean, often with these exploits, they don't necessarily project them to the world. Not everybody knows about them. So this raised another question for me, which was highlighted by a tweet which accused Liquid member I'm Fired Up to actually be exploiting during the 6th boss of the raid. So pulling up that most recent one. So this is the Spell Singer's Splinter bug. So the way it works, if you don't target a boss, instead you will focus macros to cast your spells, you will never consume the splinters and allow you to go over 8 stacks. The splitters are a dot. Each tick can crit, which makes a big DPS increase. So, and it looks like basically beyond 200, you switch to the target and let all the shards explode at the same time, causing even more high damage. So this is very... Looking at the actual post of it all, someone screenshotted it. You can see the stacks are really high in the post. And then going further into the clip of it all, you can see where people are talking about. And if you look at specifically at the DPS meters, you can see here that Fired Up begins to tick up, hit the top just before they die. And it's really like, it starts to like really start to increase right after that moment. So you can see that it is having an obvious effect on the game overall. Some people are debating, you know, whether or not this effect is notable enough to have caused enough of an effect, but inevitably, looking a bit further into it, this was fixed. Spellslinger, maximum stack count reduced to 8. So you can see that there is an attempt to try to fix it by them, and then even further in the edit of this post, it says that Liquid, of course, stopped doing it. Also, the bug is fixed. I don't know which one came first, the chicken or the egg in this case. I would like to believe that they maybe got talked to by somebody and they were told to stop doing it before the bug was fixed, to stop abusing it. I don't know if that means the bug was fixed first. People are saying that it was fixed first and then they cleared it without exploiting. So I'm gonna go with that and say that was the case, that they didn't exploit. At least by the sounds of the comments, I mean, going into here, if you type in exploit, you'll see a bunch of like 300, 400 downvoted comments saying that the exploit, you know, wasn't used. So I'm gonna go with that and say that the exploit wasn't used. But I think the unfortunate part about this is that this exploit was known for quite some time. And according to the tweets, even though they changed it, you could see that it's no longer there in the clear. I mean, we'll go a little bit further into the video here. You could see it's no longer in the clear. Despite, I mean, like a few seconds later, you'll see about 3 mages tick to the top of the damage meters. So it can't be explained, at least by my visuals. Like, I can't see the same amount of stacks as I was seeing before. So my assumption is not there. But when these bugs are present in the PTR for quite some time, should guilds at this point think that it's an exploit or think that it's a bug? Should they think that that's how it's intended? Like, maybe the game wants you to include using something like that to get the stacks, you know, or if it's not, basically it's like the ask for forgiveness, not permission type of mentality, where it's like, hey, we're not being punished for it. We haven't been punished for it all this time. People are reporting it, so maybe it's fine. So I think in this situation, opinions are definitely divided, but some believe the exploiters should be permanently banned, and then others think that it's honestly just, it's part of the race to world first. So it's kind of like a I'm using all my metaphors this video, which is like steroids in bodybuilding. It's everybody does them, so it's kind of like you ought to also do them, otherwise you're falling behind. So I think, in my opinion, despite setbacks, I think it's great that they were able to clear it. I think one of their members, Trill, had a PC crash, so they could have cleared this sooner potentially. So I mean, even that, it's an impressive feat no matter what. So my question leading from there is, you know, is it okay to use exploits? Like, is it fine? My head says no. I think that we should do things that are intended by the game's code, but honestly, these type of things have often been at the forefront of WoW. Anything from using those hyper spawns I was talking about to boosting in the game have been used to basically avoid the difficulty and the length of time it takes to get your character geared, or to just simply complete it, like a leveling, for example, because leveling was difficult back then. I know it's hard to believe, but I think shutting down efforts made by teams is honestly, it's like punishing people for trying to avoid the time gating of the game. So I think a lot of people are less empathetic towards like people who claim that they weren't able to abuse the bug, so it's unfair. Like, a lot of people just don't care because likely they would use it if they had the opportunity or chance. It's hard to say that people would be, you know, the most morally just if given the opportunity. I think what this does, though, is that it exposes the race to a lot of the chaos that goes behind these raids. There's also a portion of it on the EU side who say that the biggest exploit of all is the time advantage that NA players get. Whereas EU players get to observe, you know, a lot of the strategies and find out what works sooner, and it gets the advantage of the power gained on resets. So it's a weird balance, and it's chaotic no matter what you do. But I think this is more of an argument of culture and relevancy more than anything else. I think that Blizzard themselves see the race to world first as the first and possibly final impressions that some people get of these races or of the raids. Some people simply just don't raid, especially now that there's delves. At least not at that caliber. You know, that there's people aren't playing at that caliber often. So I think if you shut down these efforts entirely, say you do permanently ban them, I think that cuts off a large portion of the player base who at least enjoys it, or at least wants to see the raid content, maybe for the story or some of the complex fighting, or maybe just even to watch their favorite content creator. I think there's a argument that could be made that it's similar to cheesing in Dark Souls fights. I think some people will say a win's a win, and other people will say that it's just cheating. I think in the end, if it's in the game, it's fair game, and it's fair game until they say it's not fair game. so I think it's to me, the reason why it's such high contention is because this is often a tense competition. There's usually like one or two who are competing towards this, and everybody else is leagues behind, but the race is pretty close for like the top 2 or 3 teams. So it's kind of up in the air. But I think that it does need to change. It should change, at least the way these are organized and done, to kind of nix a lot this exploitation culture that's been created in Race to World First. It just makes it makes the raid seem less legitimate to me, to where it feels like a lot of it is just kind of done through we're really just, access to resources, and that it's not it's not really a community done thing. It's not the player based community doing this. It's like the highest elite teams who are participating and abusing it to infinitum to get an edge on a race once a season. You know, it just seems sort of cheap or cheapened in that kind of way. But that's my thoughts on it. I want to thank everybody for the amazing support in the past few weeks. We've recently crossed into the 3,000 watch hours, and we're super close to reaching 500 subs is my sub goal. So I hope that these videos have been helpful in some way for you, at least condensing some of this news and putting it together. And I hope to see you guys in Twitter, Twitch, in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Race to World First. What do you feel like should be changed about it? What are your ideas? And of course, if you have any content that you feel like would be good for this channel for us to react to, feel free to also share with that to me and message me. It's all ShawnSetGO, and we'll try to put together some more discussion pieces about WoW. I think the one I want to talk about most importantly is the problems with healers and tanks in current state of WoW. So hope to catch you all in the next one, and as per always, may fortune favor your journey. Peace.